There's just absolutely so much influence that takes place every day in school cafeterias nationwide. And it is an absolute joy to bring Whitney Ellersick. She is a registered dietitian and, like I said, Nutrition Services Senior Director at Portland Public Schools. We're going to talk to her about everything she's doing there in Portland, Oregon. Welcome to the Produce Moms. This is the podcast where I talk to various people who've made an impact on the fruit and vegetable community. There are so many stories to share that will change the way you look at fresh produce. Join me in welcoming Whitney to the Produce Moms podcast. Whitney Ellersick, we are glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm so excited to be with you today.
Yes, of course. So let's kick things off with a little backstory about who you are. So registered dietitian with a master's in nutrition. And obviously you're spearheading, you're a nutrition services senior director at Portland Public Schools. I imagine that's got to be you've got a big responsibility, a lot of children that you're serving there in the big public school district and in Portland. So let's talk a little bit more about what that means and what your job entails.
Well, Portland Public Schools right now for my team, we have 92 locations where we are able to feed children breakfast, lunch, after school supper, a fresh fruit and vegetable snack, which is my absolute favorite program. And then also cover 10 weeks of the summer with breakfast and lunch and snacks as well. Outside of the school year, but we are serving up to 30,000 meals a day within a school district of about 46,000 students. So we have a large team that helps to make that all possible.
And we mentioned earlier that, with you being in Portland, Oregon, the state fruit, you actually taught me this. I should have known this. I mean, we've been working with USA Pears, which is the brand that represents all of those pear growers in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, of course, included. But I did not realize that pears are your state's official fruit.
That's correct. Yes, pears are state fruit. And so we have such a great opportunity and access to fresh pears really starting this week. We just started to get our first orders and deliveries of fresh pears from a local orchard here in Oregon. And serving them on a weekly basis through February, if not later, which is great because in February, we are always celebrating the state of Oregon's birthday. So we always try to do something with pears around that time of the month as well.
It kind of comes back to another one of I said at the top of the show in the introductions that school meals, we view them as an ultimate resource and means to get children excited about fruits and vegetables and all of the child nutrition programs that are taking place in schools. It goes far beyond school lunch, as you've explained. But the other thing I always say, Whitney, is food is culture. And I think that comes to life with some of these things you're talking about. You're bringing in the culture of your home state and the local agriculture. You're bringing that to life with your menu planning and the offering of pears in particular in your school cafeteria.
Absolutely. There's such a connection there. One of the things that we've been known for, I've been with the district for 15 years, not in this role, but in this department for 15 years. And I was really fortunate to have some really proactive predecessors before me and leaders that really started the work right when I first started around local procurement and bringing in local partners, food growers, food makers from our area to really enhance the experience that our students have when they're eating school meals. And so one of the great opportunities that we have is since we're a federally funded program, we're able to reinvest these federal funds into our local economy. But better yet, we're able to not only have our students experience this great food, but then our parents are the ones that are growing and making this food. So they're able to be really excited that I'm working with them, partnering with them, buying from them, and they know their kids are eating the food that they're making or growing. And so that's a really great connection that we see happen over and over again.
So your efforts with this scratch cooking, local sourcing, telling that story through the food that you're serving to your students and the children in the school district, it's definitely yielded a lot of recognition. Not just today's spotlight here on the Produce Moms podcast, of course, but oh my gosh, your list of accolades, Whitney, we'll name just a few here. Okay, so Whitney's education and her pathway into, dietetics and nutrition, it all began with her undergrad studies at UC Davis in California, and then went on to Oregon Health and Science University. And I'm assuming, Whitney, that's where you actually received your RD then?
Yeah, I completed my dietetic internship and graduate program with Masters in Nutrition, and became a registered dietitian after completion of that.
Okay, great. And then it was shortly thereafter, 2008, when your skills, you were used as a preceptor and a guest lecturer. And then by 2013, you actually received the National Outstanding Preceptor Award. So tell us a little bit more about what that means and how, that accolade in particular is important to your professional life and what you're able to do there in Portland in the public schools.
So I was always wanting to give back. And so one of the opportunities that presented itself after I started with the district in 2007 was that Oregon Health and Science University reached out to me and asked if we would host interns. And that's a really critical, important part of our students' professional development and getting into our profession. And so we were able to take students in and be preceptors and mentors to them to gain the experience and skills that they need to sit for the registered dietitian exam. And so to be nominated for the national award and recognized within the state of Oregon was a huge honor, because the students are great. They're so enthusiastic. They always teach me something new at the same time. And so to be able to grow our professionals and to show them really what wonderful work is happening in school food service and child nutrition. It's not something that always everyone has an opportunity to see and experience. But I love it. And so I want them to see that opportunity, to be aware of what the various professions, or different careers you can take within our profession as dietitians. So this was an incredible honor for me to be amongst so many others that I've looked up to, as preceptors and mentors to myself.
Other accolades that have followed since then: 2011, you're recognized by the Food Service Management Magazine, part of their 30 Under 30. 2014, Young Dietitian of the Year in your home state of Oregon with their Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And that team approach is just something that continues to get you in the spotlight, whether it's in editorial features. The profession of dietetics, a team approach, actually was one of the editorial features that we read about you. And then I certainly want to get into your yakisoba lunch and learn a little bit more about that accolade. It was named one of the best school meals in America. So tell us a little bit more about that in particular.
This was a long partnership and approach. We actually have a lot of cultural immersion schools within our district. So we have a Japanese immersion school here in the district. And some of the parents and community members have reached out to us and said, we really want to do some more celebrations within the school. We want to tie in the cafeteria and the kitchen into what we are doing, and really celebrate the full aspect of the Japanese culture. So what can we do? And so for a while, we sat and talked about, what are some of the recipes and foods that really resonate with them? And we've tried multiple recipes, and they've been so gracious to really work with us and tell us, yes, that will work, or no, absolutely not. And ultimately landed on one of the yakisoba dishes that we menued a couple times within Richmond Elementary, which is where we first started this work, and tested it with the students, and it was a hit. We had almost the whole school eating school lunch, along with parents who would come and eat with their children. And it was just this whole really great approach. So in the meantime, we were really trying to find a good source of the noodles. We don't have the equipment to do that well within our own operation. And so when we can't do something well within our own operation, we look to our local partners to help us out with a fresh product that we can get from them, because we have a really rich and abundant food scene here in Portland. So I was able to meet a woman named by the name of Lola, and she is the owner of Umi Organic. And I told her she was doing ramen noodles. And I said, well, can you do yakisoba? I'm looking for yakisoba and I need it to be whole grain rich to meet the requirements for National School Lunch. And she said, I think so. So between November and April of the same year, she was able to develop a whole grain yakisoba noodle, test it, and we pushed it out to all of our school kitchens across the district for all of our students to try. And this is, again, she even is sourcing Oregon grains in order to incorporate as part of the recipe for the yakisoba noodles. And it was such a hit. And it was also a great vehicle for adding in vegetables. So we actually are adding in a shredded cabbage and carrots, kind of a shredded blend into the yakisoba to add that texture and crunch. And in some cases, we're roasting up mushrooms and tossing that inside too. So it really is a great vehicle for adding in additional produce and vegetables for our students to enjoy as well. Not to mention the great color. So that is one of the dishes that we're known for. And now because we've opened up that door, we have other districts here in the state who know that we've done it and that it works and that it is acceptable within the program. And so now they're starting to buy it and we're seeing it in other school districts across Oregon, which is fantastic.
You gotta love that. And we're going to dive in, as this conversation continues, Whitney, we're going to take a small break right now, but we're going to talk about that exactly, how your leadership can be a gateway to helping other districts and other school food service directors understand this is practice that you can implement. This is something that is viable amidst all the regulations. Hey, everybody, you asked, we listened. So I know that you all love our dog food recipes on theproducemoms.com. Together with our brand partners at Sage Fruit, we have actually published a dog food cookbook. So visit theproducemoms.com/ebook and you can download your free copy of the dog food cookbook presented by the Produce Moms and Sage Fruit. Welcome back, everyone. Now that we know a little bit more about Whitney, all of her achievements and everything that she's doing there to lead the way in Portland with the Portland Public Schools, we are going to get to know a little bit more about her and we're going to break the ice with some questions. So get ready. All right, Whitney, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? Your little small victory of the week and why?
Oh my goodness. There's been so many, because I have such a fantastic team, but I always get excited about the different fruits and vegetables that, I get to see our students experience in the fresh fruit and vegetable program. As I mentioned, it's one of my favorite programs that we have, in USDA. And, we had locally grown kiwi berries, that are grown here. If you're not familiar with the kiwi berry, it looks like a grape, but when you cut it in half, it looks like a kiwi. And it's only available, during this season for a very short period of time. So we always try to grab as many as we can, when they're available so our students can experience that. And probably the multicolored cauliflower, florets that we can get for them to try, just to see the faces of the kids, knowing that it can grow in shades of purple and white, and green and orange, like seeing the vibrant colors of cauliflower outside of your traditional white, cauliflower. It's so fun to see their faces and learn that it grows that way. So those are the two highlights.
I love that. And you're so right. I mean, the way the vibrant colors of the produce department or of your cafeteria, serving line, that in and of itself can be a means to encourage children to try new things or to try a bite of a fruit that maybe when it's in a different color, it wasn't as appealing to them. But I love to hear that. That's such a great an on brand highlight, if I do say so myself, here at the Produce Moms podcast. But let's talk about this, one of my favorite questions. Do you love winning or do you hate losing? It's all about perspective here, Whitney. What would you say? Love winning or hate losing?
I probably love winning. I'm highly competitive, but I'm okay with losing.
Yeah. Losing's where you learn, right? And it also, the loss makes the win that much more sweet, so to say. But no, I love that. All right, last one, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about these regulations and everything, all about what's happening in your school cafeteria. Personality traits that you value most in your colleagues.
Well, since I'm not as detail oriented, I really benefit from my colleagues who are. So I'm a let's go and do it type of person. And they are really great about slowing me down to think through some of the details that I might have overlooked. And they also make it happen. So I very much appreciate those who are detail oriented. I have a couple of team members that are excellent listeners, and I've really grown to appreciate how they're very actively listening genuinely to those that they engage with. And those are some really great attributes I've recently recognized and appreciated in my team members.
It's so true. And I can connect with that too. I'm not the cross the T and dot the I type of gal. I'm more like live in the macro and definitely have that entrepreneurial spirit you're saying, like where we're just going to go for it. So, all right, let's talk about the ins and outs of the school cafeteria. First of all, you mentioned something earlier, and I want to call it out right now. When you had that great success with your menu item, the yakisoba noodles, and you said you had almost the entire school participating in the school lunches. Participation is absolutely key to a food service operations ability to do some of the things that we're talking about today, the scratch cooking, the local sourcing, the menu innovation, et cetera. So talk a little bit about participation and what you want folks to know, that why it's so important to support your local school food service operation.
One of the things that really we've been trying to do is change the stereotype and stigma around school food. And we find that can be a barrier to our students eating. And we want to make sure that our families know and our school staff know that school meals are for everyone. It's the only place where we have this socioeconomic factor right now for our children in the school day, where we have to know about their families, economics and their wages, and it's such an interesting piece to our work. And while that's why we've been trying to really push and advocate for schools to be free for everyone, because then it continues to be seen as the free lunch program or the free meal program. And in actuality, we really want every student to feel comfortable eating with us, regardless of their family situation. And so the more that we have students eat with us, the more effective we actually are. And this is universally across, like, not just Portland. This is across the nation. The more students we feed, the more effective we can be, the more that we are able to gain efficiencies as a business, so that we're able to make better purchases. We can put more pennies or dollars towards the food items that we're looking for, that we want to serve, but might be just out of our reach. We might gain efficiency of scale. So the more that we feed, the better deals we can get, and the more we're able to reach those minimums for deliveries that our distributors have for us. And so there's just all these really great wins when we can feed more children. But most importantly, when we want our students to all feel welcome and able to eat with us, that it is for everybody.
Completely agree. Personally worked on the policy that unfortunately expired, but in light of COVID, the waiver to make school meals a universal free offering, was very pleased to be part of the lobbying efforts and the political action efforts to make that a reality, and still working today. To your point, Whitney, we are working today. It's a rallying cry for every stakeholder, I believe, as it relates to school food service. We want school meals to be a universal free offering, the same way school transportation, textbooks, and other services that are offered as universal free offerings or standard offerings within the school environment. We definitely want to see school meals reverted back to that. And hopefully, the policy will follow. It's definitely, it's driven by policy, because USDA school meals are funded in part through Farm Bill. So, with that policy, and with the fact that it's within school systems, it's regulated. let's talk a little bit about, well, you know what, before we talk about the regulations, I want to talk about, let's do a little bit of a real life comparative here so that
Sure.
folks understand when you talk about efficiencies in a school cafeteria, you are talking about what, like an hour to 2 hour time block where you're serving lunch, to how many meals are you putting out in, and what type of time block of time are you dealing with in your school system?
I love this example. And first, thank you, Lori, for being such a great advocate for school meals. We really appreciate it. We're really trying to drive home that the cafeteria and the kitchen are classrooms and learning spaces for kids, and should be looked at to as such. So I appreciate your advocacy on our behalf, and all the partners that have been there at the table. So, but to that note, we had a school that as we were serving meals for all free for our students last year. We had a high school that all of our high schools have one lunch in Portland. It's open campus across the board for all of our 9 high schools. And this one high school, it's no longer free this year. We were only able to keep 53 of our locations at no charge, but they maxed out at 721 students in 20 minutes. And that's even with at our high schools, we've developed almost like a restaurant that you would go to where you can build your own burrito or nachos or rice bowl or whatever. Choose your taco meat, your chicken, cheese, shredded lettuce, sauce, all of the toppings you choose, and they build it to order based on your preferences. And so that's even with that customizable service line that they were able to, along other options too. But that's how many students they were able to. I still have a high school right now that's over 600. I think McDaniel's serving over 600 students in 20 minutes. And it's an incredible feat. But, we're really trying to do our best to serve as many kids as we can. We want it to be a great experience, but at the same time, we also want to make sure they have enough time to eat. And that's probably one of the other factors for participation that we see impact, is that students are choosing not to eat with us a lot of times because they don't want to stand in line or don't feel there's enough time to get the food that they want and sit down and enjoy it. So that's been another topic that we've had. And it's come up especially around in terms of produce. When you have a 6-year-old who's missing teeth, or a preteen teenager with orthodontia, eating a piece of fresh fruit like a pear can be more time consuming or more difficult than, say, another food choice. And so we want to make sure that they have the time and ability to enjoy those foods and not have to pick and choose.
We're talking over 35 meals a minute here being served at the Portland Public Schools high school. This is at the high school level, but and I'm sure that, that cadence, though, that ability to hustle the kids through the line, to your point, that's not something that's just a focus at the high school level. It really is remarkable. And I go as far as to say, this is an anecdotal statement, but I'm yet to find anything that debunks this passion of mine. I truly believe that in every county in this nation, that the local school district is serving more meals per day than any other establishment, other institution, restaurant, et cetera. Like, there are more meals per day being served at the local school system than anywhere else. And when you consider the time frame in which you all are that is, to use a pun on words, that is cooking. You are cooking at the speed of light with the way that you're able to serve those kids. And it's really, and when you think about the importance of a school cafeteria, and just the symbolism alone, and these children coming together and sharing a meal around one table as one student body, going through that lunch line, having a friendly smile where there's not, it's not someone who's giving them a letter grade or putting homework on their plate or, calling on them, things that has to happen in the academic setting. It is a very welcome break. And in so many districts too, when we consider, how kids communicate with the rise of technology, how communication skills have gone by the wayside, that even further, emphasizes the importance of what's happening on school cafeterias every day. It's that face-to-face interaction, sitting down and dining with your peers. It's so important. And beyond just the social thing, okay? I'm a very big believer in what happens culturally and socially in the school cafeterias. Let's talk, Whitney, about, the regulations as it relates to the menu options. because I think that's another thing that people really it's misunderstood by the general population, just how healthy these school meals are. You don't have a choice but to serve healthy food. Like, talk a little bit more about that. And specifically, of course, with this being the Produce Moms podcast, let's talk about the importance of fruits and vegetables in school meals.
Absolutely. So fruits and vegetables, actually, we're required to offer 5 different food components at lunchtime. We'll focus on lunch for since it's National School Lunch Week this week. Yeah. We'll full focus on lunch. But for lunch in particular, that's usually that's 2 out of the 5 groups that we're talking about. Fruits and vegetables are separate, and they have their own separate requirements. So fruit, we're always are required to offer a half a cup for our younger students and a full cup for our high school students. And then for vegetables, it's broken down into subgroups of different varieties of vegetables, because vegetables are so colorful. They provide a lot of different vitamins and nourishment to our students and to ourselves as our bodies. So we have our red orange group, we have our dark leafy greens, we have our starchy vegetables, we have our beans, legumes. Yeah, that's a big one, big popular one. And then the other category, which is a very fun one, it's kind of the catch-all of all the things that don't fit into the other one.
Anything that doesn't fall right into one of those other silos, it's categorized as other. And you know what? It is important. It's important to have those categories for a lot of different reasons. It helps so many people that are, probably even tuning into this broadcast can nod their head in agreement that, I can always get my kid to eat fill in the blank. In my household, I can always get my son Mac to eat baby carrots, but I can't always get him to try things in these other categories. So it's really nice that the school meal, you have those deliberate benchmarks where you've broken down the veggies in particular by category.
Right. So every week we're going to cover every category of vegetable. And then we're always going to have daily fruit as well to offer. And so, but what the students are choosing when they come through the line, we always want to make sure they have adequate food on their plate. We want them to be well nourished. And so by the time they leave us, we're always making sure that they have at least 3 of those 5 food components between our whole grains, our lean proteins, our fluid milk, and then fruits and vegetables. They have to have 3 of those components. And one of the 3 always has to be at least a minimum of 1/2 cup fruit or vegetable or vegetable. They can mix it up, but we always want to make sure that. Now where we come in, and I, again, super fortunate to be here in this district, and longstanding value of ours is we want to encourage fruits and vegetables. So our students, with this change that happened back in 2012, we actually were already encouraging our students to take fruits and vegetables with their meal, with unlimited fruits and vegetables. So if they choose school lunch, they have the opportunity to come through and get as much fruit and vegetables as they want, and then come back for more if they're still hungry. And it's a really great opportunity for them to start role modeling some of those healthy behaviors of, when you're hungry, let's fill up on those items like pears that are filled with fiber, but maybe not as many calories, but get a lot more vitamins and nutrients into their body.
I love that. So let's talk specifically about pears. We've already covered it's your state's official fruit. All right. And you, with all from a dietitian point of view, I mean, fruits are a great choice nutritionally. I'd love for you to share some highlights right now on why, as someone who has studied nutrition, why you choose pears and why you have so much confidence serving pears to your students.
Pears are such a great fruit. I love the different textures and colors that we can get some bright red, vibrant pears to put out for our students. We can get green, or they turn the yellow, some bosque, little bit of a texture difference on the skin on a bosque. And even in our fresh fruit and vegetable program, we were able to get these little tiny suckle pears and mini pears. And just to show the students in the various shapes that they come in, it's just encouraging them to try something new. Really seeing where students, if you provide them with different textures, colors, different experiences over time, the curiosity kicks in. Especially like you were speaking about, Lori, is that when they're surrounded by their peers in a common space and they see their peer trying something, or their friend trying something out, they're more inclined to try it as well. And so when they're eating together as a community, then there's a lot more safety in that, and we find that they're able to try it. But there's so much variety within pears, and we have again, they're really high in fiber, so they're a great fruit in terms of making you feel full. So it's kind of that difference between, like, if you were to drink pear juice, you would not feel as full as eating a whole pear, right? You have that physical fullness and feeling satisfied with it, that you wouldn't get with, say, a juice or another texture. The other great thing about pears is that we are able to use them in a variety of ways. So if we, in February, like I said, when we celebrate this state's birthday, we've actually incorporated them in with our greens. So we will source kale or baby kale, and we will, of course, you want to massage the kale so it's a little bit more tender, but we massage that in one of our salad dressings, like either a balsamic or one of our, it's like a soy sauce sesame based, what we call our dragon sauce that we came up with, the kids like, that we will massage into the kales, and then we will slice fresh pears within the salad. And it really becomes this great dish, and a great opportunity for them to try different combinations of foods between, not just with fruits, like in a fruit salad, if we were to slice the pears amongst like oranges and apples and bananas, but we can also put it with our vegetables, or we can cut it up and we can roast them and sprinkle some granola on top, and it becomes a treat. So you now have this fruit-based treat that's lower in sugar, or added sugar per se, but just really great, getting that great added benefit and nutrition.
I love it. And as you're describing this salad, I'm thinking kale with a house-made dressing and fresh pear slices. Gone are the days where school lunch was a slice of square frozen pizza, right? I mean, this sounds like a menu. I mean, that sounds like a salad I'd pay $20 for at a restaurant. So keep up the good work. But let's talk about there's got to be. So when I think back to, my experience with pears in the school cafeteria to what, you're describing today, very different. And, most of my interactions with pears and school meals was canned pears, which are great. I mean, I don't think anyone tuning in today, I don't think you as a nutrition, professional and dietitian, a school food service professional would say there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. However, we are definite advocates for let's get as much fresh form fruit and veg into the hands of children as possible. I wholeheartedly believe it's the supreme eating occasion, an experience, especially at times of peak flavor, as you were describing, just now getting into that local fall harvest and seasonality, carrying it through the winter, all the way through really Valentine's Day. You're going to have those locally sourced Oregon pears. So let's talk about, pears might not grow in the backyard of every school food service director across this nation the way they do in Oregon, okay? But pears are a great choice for school meals and school cafeteria operators. So let's talk what you've learned, some of the best practices, maybe debunking any of those myths that surround it. Like, I know labor is always a concern. So that's why a lot of school cafeterias, are choosing, they feel like they don't have the option to choose fresh form. They're going with a canned or prepared form of another type. So let's talk about why fresh pears are a great choice and something that any school food service operation can implement in their cafeteria.
I would say that, there's different processes, like you mentioned, like canned and frozen and dried are really great options. I just saw some dried pears recently that were fantastic. And those are great options for when we're trying to extend into, kind of those gap seasons and enjoy fruits year round. But definitely what we're seeing is for a lot of families, acquiring fresh produce, fresh fruit like pears, that's a risk. You're dealing with something that is perishable. And so sometimes our students don't have the access or exposure to those types of items at home. And so we want to do that part. We want to make sure we are providing that accessibility to our students at our meal services. So, my colleagues and I, we deal with a lot of regulation, as you spoke of, and different pots of money. And so I think that sometimes We have access to canned fruits through different pots of money within USDA Foods. And sometimes we're able to navigate we're able to use those pots of money to buy fresh fruits and vegetables as well. And I am fortunate that I'm right in the backyard and have orchards surrounding, the state in Oregon and in Washington. So definitely I feel fortunate here, but you also have to be really mindful about how you are menuing it and how you train your team members that are in the kitchens on how to best utilize it. So I got our first shipment of pears in this week as we transitioned as into our seasonal fruit, as you mentioned. And just yesterday, I was in a school kitchen with my team members, and we were talking about the pears. And one of the big things is giving them permission to make those types of decisions that if an item like a pear is not ripe yet, if it is not going to be ready that day to serve it, make the decision to not serve it. Don't put it out there for a student to try if it's not ripe yet. Because that, I think, really is where we see the discouragement. Pears are delicious. They are so sweet, and I love them very much. But you definitely want to make sure it's, got the right texture, the softness to the neck, so you know that it's ripe. And so my teams had it on the table. We talked about keeping them out at room temperature, letting them ripe a little bit longer, putting a couple apples near them so that the gases from the apples can help them ripen overnight, and then putting them out the next day. So if we're able to have that flexibility within this, highly regulated programs that we have, and build that trust within your kitchen team to make that decision to say, you know what, it's not ripe yet. My kids are going to love it when it is. We're going to wait one more day and just give it the peak ripeness.
And it is so important because it is an injustice to our mutual quest to get children excited about fruits and vegetables. I mean, our mission here at the Produce Moms is to get more fruits and vegetables on every table. And I say it often, and I'm going to say it again. I really think that schools are a huge catalyst. They are swinging that pendulum, folks, and getting kids excited about fruits and vegetables, transforming fruits and veggies into something that children want to eat versus something that they're told they have to eat. You really see it come alive in school cafeterias coast to coast. Whitney's in Portland. I live in Indiana, the East Coast. Like, it doesn't matter where you're at or what growing region you're in. These school food service directors are truly heroes in our quest to get more fruits and veggies on kids' plates and in their mouths. And so it is such an injustice to that goal when we serve children fruits and veggies that aren't, at their optimal flavor. And a pear that is not ripe, to Whitney's point, is not doing anyone justice. It's not good for the growers who worked hard to grow it. It's not good for the nutrition professionals like Whitney who are planning these menus and choosing what they're putting out there for the kids to enjoy. And it certainly is not justice to the end consumer, the child who's biting into the pear that has a grainy, crunchy texture when it's supposed to be soft, juicy, refreshing. It's so important. So I'm glad you brought that up. And just so everyone knows, we got to set the record straight. Whitney was doing the little thumb motion. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you're seeing this, okay? But you literally, I wish I had a pear in my hand right now. I don't, but you check the neck for ripeness. So you hold that pear and then you use your thumb at the neck of the pear, which is right where that stem comes out. And if the pear yields to slight pressure, okay, at the neck, that's when you know it's ripe. And if it does not yield to slight pressure, you need 1 or 2 days at room temperature. Like Whitney said, you can speed up that process naturally by putting the fruit in a bowl or in a bag with other fruits that produce that ethylene, whether it's apples or bananas or avocados. So Whitney, thank you for explaining that. And it is certainly a passion point of ours here at the Produce Moms. I had to kind of chime in with my own remarks. And we must give a shout out to USA Pears, which is how here at the Produce Moms, that's how we met Whitney. It was an introduction from USA Pears. So thank you very much for that. We're going to take a very brief break. And when we come back, we're going to wrap things up and more with Whitney Ellersick from Portland Public Schools. So stay with us. Hey, everybody, you asked, we listened. So I know that you all love our dog food recipes on theproducemoms.com. Together with our brand partners at Sage Fruit, we have actually published a dog food cookbook. So visit theproducemoms.com/ebook and you can download your free copy of the dog food cookbook presented by the Produce Moms and Sage Fruit. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Produce Moms podcast. Lori Taylor here with Whitney Ellersick, and we've talked so much about school food service and the different things that happen. A lot of what I wanted to cover from all the different. The only thing I want to talk about, Whitney, because we've touched on it, but I don't know if we've actually articulated it. I'd like to go through so that folks understand what school nutrition services really encompass. Breakfast, lunch. We've talked about the fresh fruit and vegetable snack program. Any other specific programs that you'd like to call out?
I would say probably after school supper. And some districts have after school snack. We operate after school supper. And so at each of those that you mentioned, we're always offering usually at least one, if not multiple servings of fruit and or vegetables. And then of course our summer program as well. That runs in the summer. But after school supper is a really critical one for our students who are participating in engaging enrichment activities. And the folks that are offering the after school enrichment programs are just fantastic. They have so many great programs for our kids. So they're doing things that are enriching, and we're able to offer them one more meal before they head home. And so that's really been a wonderful program for us to implement. And we have that in over 30 of our school sites here.
I love that. Yeah. And so, we've talked about how schools are such a catalyst for getting children excited about fruits and vegetables. It really is beyond that when you explain all of these different programs that are part of your school nutrition service. We're talking about food security for children across this nation through school food service operations. So it really is such a critical part of our value chain when we think about the fresh produce value chain, what's happening in the schools. I mean, we cannot state it enough. It is so important. And for those of you, I proudly send my children to school with lunch money. My kids don't know what it means to pack a lunch box. They, and I think that just kind of comes back to, walk the talk, so to say. If we're going to, at the Produce Moms, if we're going to be advocates for school food service and working on policy to, be that political activist to make sure that school meals get the adequate funding so that fruits and vegetables can have a stakehold and a growing stakehold within school meals and all school nutrition programs. I knew from the very beginning my kids needed to be participatory. So I always bring that up too. We are blessed where we have food access in this house. It would not be a barrier by any means we have no barriers in our ability to pack a lunch box for our children. I choose for them and they choose to participate in school meals. And it's been a wonderful blessing for our family. I mean, my children have been exposed to meals, to Whitney's point, doing all this cultural dining. Like we all get into our rut where we make the same 5 to 10 meals on rotation. So this has helped, the school meal program has helped broaden my children's palate and their understanding of food as culture. And for that, I'm very thankful. And I also have my understanding of the regulations with school meals has made me, very confident in my choice. I know that my children are getting fruits and veggies, and hey, that role modeling from their peers is something that is very powerful. My kids see me eat fruits and veggies, but when they see one of their buddies or someone that they look up to at the school choose a fruit or vegetable, I'm telling you, that's 10 times more powerful at certain stages of life than watching mom or dad eat one, So it really is. It's a profound environment that is making a tremendous impact on the health, well-being, and the social ability of our children. So Whitney, thank you. I'm very proud to have my kids be participatory in school meals, and professionals like you are what makes it happen, So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Of course. So we're going to wrap things up before we give you the mic for final remarks. I do want to ask you some action-oriented advice here. We're together celebrating, the Oregon pear season and USA pears. So what's one tip? I mean, you're serving your schools are serving 35 meals a minute. Okay. So what's one tip that whether it's a household or a fellow food service professional, how can we get our kids more excited about pears? What's one way that we can serve pears to our children today?
I'd say, one, don't give up. I think, when you were speaking, Lori, about your experience as a mom, I have to resonate with that too. I have, 2 daughters at home, and even though they are living with a dietitian and a chef as parents, they too are more influenced at times by their peers or those around them, in trying new foods. And so, I would say get them involved. So whether you're taking them to go grocery shopping, to pick it out, to, take the fruit and cut it up, to appreciate and see it rather than doing it and putting it on the plate for them, have them be more involved. If they can, just in general with produce, with fruits and vegetables, if they, are able to grow it, if they're able to cook with it, if they're able to touch it and see it, the more times that you're able to do that, the more they're likely they are to try it, to taste it, and then to eventually hopefully enjoy it. And so it really takes time, for our children's palates to develop. So I would say just don't give up and give them the opportunities to be involved. It might take a second or 2 longer, but it'd be well worth it. As you said, we don't want to waste that hard work that those farmers are putting into that wonderful produce, those wonderful pears. So I would say get your children involved, pick out the color they want, cut it up themselves, wherever is age appropriate for them. Because the more involved they are, the more likely they're invested in it and want to try it.
Whitney, great advice. Beautiful last thoughts. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, it's another great episode here at the Produce Moms Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the Produce Moms Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and any preferred podcast platform. Check out the Produce Moms on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Special thanks to everyone involved with the Produce Moms Podcast, my amazing team. Stay tuned till next time. The Produce Challenge is a tool that we've been publishing at the Produce Moms since 2013. This tool is an incredible, easy way for you to discover more varieties of fruits and vegetables in the produce department. It is a proven tool and strategy to get us all to eat more fruits and vegetables in both volume and variety. When we started the tool in 2013, the goal was to encourage everyone to go into the produce department and try them all. Find your favorite, explore all the fruits and vegetables, and we are still proud to be doing this today. So make sure that you check out the producemoms.com/challenge to view this month's produce challenge. Remember, it's never too late to start. This tool helps you eat more fruits and vegetables, a different fruit or vegetable every day. It's also a great tool for seasonality, and you can count on us at the Produce Moms for all of the tips that you need on how to select, store, and serve each of the produce items of the day in the produce challenge through our social media channels. Hope to see you taking the produce challenge soon.